my chat today. I thought back, and I do have random thoughts that pop in my head a lot because I'm a kid's dentist and I sort of have ADHD and I smell a lot of nitrous. So what happens is my head gets off in distant places very quickly. So I was thinking just all of a sudden about my boys and what their favorite video was when they're about 5 or 6 years old, and they're 17 and 18 now. What their favorite video was, and I was like, hey, that would actually be applicable to my class today, so I'm going to show it, all right? So, of course, if you have a 5 or had a 5 and 6 year old son, what do they think is interesting and funny?
As a son.
The things that are inappropriate?
Absolutely. That's the same word, it's farts, all right? Farts is where it's at, okay? So, we're going to start off our video to explain why I'm showing this video, but it ties in. Come on in, Lorena. We're really going to shock our immune system here. Take that, have a seat.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go, here's the video, kicking it off.
I can't believe it, it's my first blind date.
Oh, I do it all the time.
Really?
Oh, I've seen this video.
You guys meet? Greg, Janice?
We sure did.
I remember that one.
This is smart.
That is so funny.
It's so long since
$99 for other smart stuff like directions.
We've got chemistry here. You feel it?
I felt it.
All right, Janice.
All right, so today we're talking about first impressions, okay? And of course, this lady has a very memorable first impression herself, right? So I want to share a couple of my first impressions, help illustrate what we're talking about today. So the first time I went to go on a date with Lisa, all right? I took her to a hockey game, and it was out of town, and so I drove up to her house, and I knew her okay, but I didn't know anything about her family or anything like that, so I drove to her house, right? And I took her up on a Saturday. As I pulled in the driveway, her brother was out mowing the yard, and I was like, oh, brother, you know, so I pulled and got in my car and walked over kind of towards him because he was there just in the yard, and he stopped the mower and comes out and shakes my hand, and I introduced myself. I was there to pick up Lisa, and I'm like I was nervous, right, because like older brother is going to be kind of intimidating to meet the older brother and like make a good impression and everything, so I'm like, I'll try and just play it cool, you know, be like, kind of like, you know, I'm a junior in high school, he's probably like later in college, you know, I'll try and be the cool guy, right? So so I started acting that way. Right. And about 30 seconds into the conversation, all of a sudden he kind of stops and goes, I think you're confused. And I said, okay. And he goes, I'm Lisa's dad. And that was Dr. Scott. So those of you who met or know Dr. Scott, that was the first time he met me. And his first impression of me was trying to be a cool guy. Well, I thought he was just a college age, but he's always looked young. And he looked extremely young that night. And so that was my first impression and experience with Dr. Scott, right? So not exactly like a winner of an experience, right? My first experience as a dental patient happened when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I had a toothache. I woke up in the morning and it hurt really bad. So I told my mom, and my grandma had gotten a job at a dental office a few months previously, and so she called my grandma, and they were able to squeeze me in as an emergency, okay? So my first experience was going in with a toothache. It was limited, all right? And I went into the dental office. This is in the mid-'80s. And, of course, the office was decorated like it was straight out of the 70s. So you can imagine that, like shag carpet and everything. And as I walked in, I sat down in the dental chair, and I don't remember much until the assistant left, and I remember sitting there being kind of anxious because my mom was there and it was just me and we were waiting for the doctor, right? And the doctor then walks in, and this is where my memory gets very vivid, okay? And this is what I remember. So Dr. Hayward walks in with a cigarette, and stands there, and he goes, hey kid, what's up? And I was like, my tooth hurts. And he goes, you want to see something cool? And I was like, okay. And he goes, he holds it for like 3 or 4 seconds, and then he blows the smoke out of his nose. And I was like, I don't think I said a word the rest of the visit. I was so petrified. This guy was going to fix me somehow. Like, the Dragon Man or whoever he was. And we didn't smoke at my house, so I had like no frame of reference that way or anything. And so, anyway, I don't remember much of the rest of the visit. I think the night just worked well for me, thank goodness, because I was scared to death. All right? So, that was my first experience as a dental patient. All right? The only thing I remember, I got a second. The only thing I remember is leaving. I was still thinking a little loopy, and I remember my grandma was really embarrassed because I threw a fit when I left because they had prizes. they had bouncy balls or princess rings at his office, but that day they were out of bouncy balls, so my prize had to be a princess ring, which was way cool for a 5-year-old boy. And I remember saying out loud, and she told me many, many times for many, many years later, and I said, if I'm ever a dentist, I'm gonna have really cool prizes. And then I'd be a dentist. So, anyway, that was like her favorite story. So anyway, so what I illustrate there is that first impressions sometimes don't go very good, but yet, thankfully Dr. Scott still let me marry Lisa. I still continued on in life in dentistry. Things happen, and in our life, relationships have ebbs and flows. They don't always start out positive, but they can be complex and complicated. But one thing that is the same about every relationship is they have a first impression. Okay? And we live in a world nowadays where, frankly, the world is extremely judgmental. All right? And it's because things are very convenient and we have lots of options. When I was a kid, I'm not sure we had anywhere else we could go than Dr. Hayward because probably we got a discount there and my parents couldn't afford to do anything else. So it didn't matter if he was smoking in the room or not. That's where we were going to go, right? But we live in a world now with so many other options, availabilities to us. We can be choosy, hence we can be judgmental. And it's not all bad, right? Because, we know people are going to be judgmental, so we try and give our best, right? And so that's a positive aspect to it. But it puts a lot of pressure on us because people are going to be judgmental with their reviews or their ratings or what they say or what they tell on social media, all right? It makes that first impression that much more important. The second thing is that we're in a world now where, not like it was 5 or 10 years ago, where we're just competing against other dental offices for dental care. We're getting more and more into a world where we're actually challenged with the fact of just getting parents to care. Not just dental care, but to care, all right? And making that choice amongst all the other distractions, things they have. We talked earlier about moms and Netflix and the economic world, and it's a choice now, all right? And getting them to care can be hard. So again, the first impression is that much more important all the way around too, okay? So I hope that leads us to where we are. We're talking about the Alligator Dental first impression experience, all right? Every person that comes to work at Alligator Dental has to go through a first impression experience after they've been hired. And some of you have been through this recently, or maybe it's been a while, and maybe you're so old you didn't do this. But everyone has a binder meeting with me, all right? Because I want the first impression of their actual sort of like real job experience to be something important, specific, special, and I want to be in charge of all of it to make sure it goes exactly the way I want to go in charge of. Okay, so it doesn't matter who you are, where you work in the organization, you're going to meet with me to talk about your training, okay? And that's really important. So we do the same thing for our patients. It's very scripted, and you may or may not realize this, but the first impression that people get at Alligator Dental is a whole series of steps that's extremely scripted out by Lisa and I that we've developed. And all of you play a role. Very few systems in our office actually touch every person in our organization, and this is one that does, okay? So your paper you have here is going to walk us through that today. The top part is the 5 steps to the cycle of first impression in our office. And you're in this going to find out where you fit in and where your role is and how you're involved, because without any part of this cycle, the whole thing falls apart. We have to have all these important steps. There's also a place you take notes if you want to take some, and then at the end, a place for you to think about what are my goals in trying to help make my part of the new patient cycle and the first impression cycle positive and great for me, because in the end, if you do a great job of doing this, you love your job that much more. Okay? So let's get started, all right? So the first step, the number 1 box here that starts the whole process is how people really kind of learn about us. And it's usually 2 major things. One, either our online presence or word of mouth, okay? So you can write online presence and word of mouth in your box, okay? That's the first 2 things that happen, okay? And if you need a pen, I got some pens here. There's some pens. There's some out in my pocket. Here, right, here's another one.
Oh, that's what keeps sticking.
Yeah, that's what I got caught by something too. So online presence and word of mouth, okay? That is the first way people generally get an impression of us, okay? Now, we may or may not have a whole lot of control over this, all right? We do certain things to make sure our online presence is good, to find us on Google or to where our map is right and that kind of stuff. But as far as reviews are concerned or other things, those are things a little bit out of our hands. And certainly word of mouth, we have very little control over, other than just trying to provide the best experience we can, right? So that's something that really is a first impression that we can't really control, but is an essential part of the step to process, okay? Number 2, though, is really key in the first real, I say, step in general. So your number 2 box here is basically this form. Now, if you work at the clinical offices, you probably aren't really sure what this is. Maybe you've never seen this. If you work at Pine Street, you've got these coming out your ears, okay? This is the new patient intake form, all right? And it's the way we make, so you can write new patient intake form on step number 2. That is the first step of our first impression to make it go well. And we have this because when someone chooses to call us on the phone, all right, or reach out to us, they've had to overcome some barriers. They might be worried about getting judged at their office. They might be worried about their kids' behavior. They're worried about anxiety because they don't like the dentist. They've got all these things they can be worried about. Like, I don't even know what my insurance is. Does it even work? Like, they've got all these barriers or these voices telling them, don't make that appointment or you're going to have to face these fears, right? So if they've found the way to overcome these fears, to at least try, what we do is we try and create an experience so that they don't have to face those fears again, or they face them easily, all right? And that's what this form is for, all right? They also call up, and who here likes calling up a new place to schedule an appointment? You're like, is it gonna take 5 minutes? Is it gonna take 10 minutes? Am I gonna have to have all this stuff out? Like, it's just like, it like kind of sucks. It's not convenient, right? And so we have a couple things to do with this. First thing, Pine Street staff, how long is a new patient intake call supposed to take?
Isn't that only 3 minutes?
It's less than 3 minutes, okay? In fact, 2 minutes is the benchmark, okay? So if you knew that you could call and order pizza in less than 2 minutes, you'd probably call that place often,
Yeah.
right? That's the reputation that we have. When we call and get a new patient appointment, it takes 2 minutes. That was easy, all right? So that's a goal. In fact, we have 100 recordings of parents saying, that's it? Oh, that was easy, all right? That's what we want to hear, because when they have that experience, it's a dopamine release in their head. The chemicals in their brain go, that was great, and I've had a positive experience. I feel happy feelings, okay? That's how the chemistry works, okay? The psychology works, is by making a short appointment. And 2, we don't get on the computer because that's just gonna slow us down. All the information goes here. Our staff knows when the next new patient visits are. We try and get away from anything that slows us down and make it fast, rapid, and concise as possible. They fill out the sheet, and then everything happens on the back end. We don't make people sit on the phone for us while we muddle through things or enter information or all that kind of stuff. We make it as quick and fast and easy as possible, right? That is how we create the feeling for the parent when they get off going, that was easy, all right? We see how we've created that impression, and it's not a face-to-face impression, it's just a vocal or electronic impression we really created with that, okay? That is number 2 in the process, okay? That's how we break down those barriers. Now, let's go to number 3, okay? So now, all of a sudden, we've had this great, phone call maybe, all right? The time has now come though where we're back to feeling like I gotta face my fears. I actually have to go physically to the dental office now, all right? I often think about those patients that are new patients on our schedule that don't show up. You know what I think? I don't think they're scummy people. I don't think like, oh, they're just, don't have control over their life. I think they've got too many fears or worries today to actually pull the trigger, all right? And so when the people that do have the ability to pull the trigger, they walk through that front door. And what is the first face-to-face impression everyone gets at our offices?
Receptionist.
The receptionist, okay? So for those of you who've been a receptionist in this office, you are a savior, you are a warrior, because you are not an entry-level position person. You are extremely essential to our practice, because you are like the tour guide person on the cruise ship who sits there and people walk up and they're happy and they want an excursion and they're drunk and they have a cut finger, and you have all these things, and with every single person, what do? You just try and make them feel happy and welcomed and accepted and build trust, okay? And sometimes it's hard and sucks because they have all kinds of stuff to dump on you, right? So that is what our receptionists do. They are that filter that come in, and so they have to be ready to handle all those things. But when it comes to new patients, all right, they're not told to do anything really special other than be themselves, but they do something special. Just like if you were hosting a party at your house, and your friend shows up and they bring a friend with them you've never met. What are you gonna do with that person that shows up? As the host, you're gonna go, well, hello, welcome. I'm glad to have you here today. I'm so-and-so. Here's where the bathroom is. Here's where the movie's playing. Here's where the dip is. Make yourself at home. You say these things because you want them to feel trusted and welcome. You don't really do anything extra maybe, but that's what our receptionists do. They just want that new patient to feel welcome. They might tell them about the office or the tour or whatever it is, just to help them feel welcome there, all right? So they feel again at peace and happy and like, oh, nice people are here, all right? That's the feeling we're trying to get. And that is number 3, okay? The receptionist welcome experience. Okay? Number 4 is a big one, all right? Number 4 is the clinical new patient experience. And in the end, it is the part that really people made the call initially for, okay? This is where all the stress all comes to a climax, okay? All these worries and concerns, we've given them good vibes up to this point, but now, all of a sudden, the rubber hits the road, and now we gotta get down to brass tacks, okay? So what happens from here is, of course, a nice assistant's gonna give a big welcome, big hello, and oh, another nice person, good. Everyone seems to be nice here. I'm getting a good feeling that way, right? And here in Cibolo, they walk through that door, they come around, and where do they go?
Here.
This room, this very room, okay? And this is the room where the magic is supposed to happen, all right? And we do a series of psychological, really, manipulation that creates dopamine releases and positive things. Let's talk about some of those things. This might be a deeper level than you've ever heard, even if you've worked in the clinic and done this 1,000 times, okay? So this is what Dr. Al and Lisa have scripted, okay? So someone walks in here, all right? They're stressed, they're worried, we're going to the doctor, all these things, we got pain, I got baggage, I got insurance issues, like that. Mom is just swirling, right? Kid also might be wanting to touch everything, run into everything, super jazzed up now, or maybe petrified, who knows? They're all kind of whacked out in various things, okay? Everyone's just like, you know, going like 100 decibels, right? And so they come in here, and what's the first thing they do? We hand them this. Here you go. Give that away. All right? Now, what does that do in that moment? Everything is now become unexpected. They go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I'm now not thinking about all my stresses now. And kids like, ADHD kids like, heck yeah, wow. Right? Little Susie, who is, grandma's told her, you don't talk unless you're spoken to, comes over and she goes, all right, you know? And as a dental assistant, you're learning all kinds of stuff, right? You're like, oh, I know what kind of kid this is, right? I know what kind of kid this is, right? Moms too. Moms are like, don't break this. Or it's like, just hit it, come on.
Yeah.
You learn what the mom dynamic is too, which helps you to be able to go, okay, this is what I'm going to be dealing with today, you know, and I kind of, I jive, I ebb and flow with what I need to do, all right, but you're learning a lot, okay? But kid hits this, and all of a sudden, what does that do to their brain? They may, you know, whether it's I've overcome my fear, or I made a loud noise that made everyone look at me, or whatever it is, I've done something that got me out of my comfort zone, I did something different than I was expecting, and I did it. And whether it was scary or happy or whatever, it actually creates a dopamine release in your brain about, I did something different, unexpected, and good for me, all right? That's the feeling that they get by hitting that, okay? All by design, okay? Then, and mom is like, are we at the dentist office? What's going on here, all right? So then what's the next thing we tell them to do?
Right on the wall.
Yeah, we have this big old fat Sharpie marker that can cause all kinds of trouble, and they go, right on the wall, dude, right, put your name up there. And the kid goes, like this, you know? If I did this at my grandma's house, she would shoot me, right? You know, I could do something naughty. Okay, well, I guess I could do that, and, oh, well, look, you know, look at all these other kids who've done something naughty. This is like the naughty club, and this is kind of cool. Like, they get the confidence, they see all these other kids, and go, I can do this too, all right? So they get confidence, they also get out of their comfort zone, and they're not thinking about other stuff anymore. They're signing their name on the wall, or they're drawing their little weird guy, or whatever it is they do, right? And mom by now is like, what are we doing here? Like, she's been so pulled away from what her worries were, we've got all this other stuff going on, it's got her in a reset mode, okay? So at that point, once we've done that, then what do? Nice dental assistant's like, oh, well, come try my comfy bench. Or here's my camera. Let's take some pictures of your teeth or your nose or whatever, you know? And all of a sudden we're introducing some dental things to them that are very simple and benign and not scary because we've already broke down some barriers. And by now, kids like, I can do anything there. This place is easy. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm way out of my comfort zone, but I'm loving it. You know, I'm living out here free, right? And mom starts going, they got the dental chair? Okay. They're taking pictures? Expecting that, okay, all right. And mom is starting to go, is there drugs being pumped in through the air conditioning ducts here? Because this is not how I expected my kid to behave, okay? And all of a sudden, mom starts to like turn her thoughts and become a little believer that this might actually go good too, all right? We get everybody moving in the right direction, fear is breaking down, trust is starting to build, okay? And then, what do we do after that? The doctor wheels in. We surprise them one more time. Doctor's here. And that is a stressful moment for mom because doctor's the one that's going to give me the good news, the bad news, be very affecting on my feelings today. Kid doesn't know if doctor's going to be mean, happy, or hurt me, whatever. You know, and all of a sudden, what does the doctor do? They just come in, they lean back. I'm just a person. How's it going? Good to meet you all today. Let's shake hands. You know, we touch in non-oral ways. You know, he touched me on the shoulder. That wasn't so bad. You know, things like this start to happen, and it's just to like get to know the doctor without the pressure of getting to do the doctor experience, right? And it's a pleasant little thing. How can it not be pleasant, right? And then the doctor leaves. And he's going to come back at some point, but, well, they were nice. Okay, we got through that too. So we've given it a little bite-sized portion. So doctor leaves, and then the magic really starts. Because all of a sudden the kid who's never even sat in the dental chair is now marching over and is getting x-rays. And mom is like, are you kidding me? Like last time they barfed 3 times when we did this, all right? Now our system is not foolproof. Not every kid marches over there happily and gets x-rays. We still have some fighters and stressors, but I'll tell you, those kids are dialed down way more than they were from before. We've at least got them a couple steps closer to being a good patient, right? And that is the experience we create in step number 4, is the clinical experience of reshaping and the clinical experience they've never had before. they've never experienced before, and they have confidence and trust, hopefully, as to going through just those things, simple as hitting a gong and signing a wall. That's why those are so important, Dr. Al. Okay? Cool. In 1 minute, the last step. All right? Step number 5 is the last step, the financial coordinator. Most of our kids need treatment, and they got to see that person up front. So if you are a financial coordinator, you have a delicate job, because either one, you're going to be the cherry on top, or you're going to be the fly that lands in your smoothie. Okay? So you have to get hard news. So you got to be transparent. You got to be concise. You got to be clear. You got to be direct. You got to show the video, and you give this really nice package presentation, so the parent goes, "This might feel like Disneyland, but yes, there actually are responsible people that are in this building." Okay? And create that good feeling. And so when you're done with the financial coordinator and going through those steps, parents understand their expectations, and hopefully the bill that they received at the end of the dinner is worthwhile to them for what the experience that they had. And that's what we're hoping for, so everything is happy and feeling good, okay? So once they finish that experience with number 5, then what happens? What happens after 5?
Alright, the toy.
The toys and such. But in our cycle, what happens?
Word of mouth.
It goes back to word of mouth and online presence. Because when the family leaves and said this good experience, what do? They elevate our online presence. They tell friends and family, whatever it is, and the whole cycle starts all over. Okay? Now I hope you can see that every step in this process is key and essential. Everyone is very scripted out to make sure it hopefully goes smoothly and creates the feelings that we want. Okay? And it all cycles back to the beginning, so it can just happen all over again. Okay? The great thing about this cycle, when it runs good and smooth and you take care of your box, and you get that was easy, or you get that high five from the kid, or the financial coordinator, like mom's like, wow, I really had a good experience today. What does it do for you? You get a dopamine release. All right? And you're like, this is good. I'm helping people. I'm making a difference in the world. And that's why I do the work that I do. Right? So that's just the happiness cycle. Is the first impression cycle. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. We walked through it in detail. Feeling good?
Yep.
Okay, there we go. All right, so